Bible readers. We are reading day 21 today. So we are finishing up Matthew chapter 14. It's a short read, but some really great stuff in here. So we read the story of Jesus walking on water. And when we start breaking apart the verses and what all actually happens in this little section is some pretty great information that we can learn about who Jesus is and how we can reach out to him, how he rescues us. And so what we see is, he just fed the over 5,000 people, and he's been speaking with them all day. And so everybody obviously is pretty tired, and Jesus has to send them on their way. And he sends the disciples out into the boat, but he goes up to the mountain to pray. And I think this is a verse where you could easily read on past it and keep going to kind of the climax of the story where he walks on water. But I think this is an important part to slow down and note that Jesus had that desire to be alone with his Father, to pray. And I think that should be the desire of our heart, to find this time to be alone with the Father, to pray, to read scripture. And it's how we build that intimate relationship with him that Jesus was feeling at this time. So I think verse 23 really is a more important verse than just the quick read over as we get to Jesus walking on the water. So then we see in the story that the disciples are in the boat. Now, this is not like sometimes we picture a big pirate ship like Pirates of the Caribbean, but a lot of the boats those days were actually more like a rowboat or some kind of small fishing boat, because it says, that the disciples had stopped. They were tired probably from rowing. They were pretty far from the shore at this point. And so Jesus doesn't go out to the fourth watch, which would be probably around between 3 and 6 in the morning. So the disciples are resting, and Jesus walks on water out to them. Of course, this is a pretty terrifying sight if you've never seen someone walk on water, which I think we would all be in that same boat, literally, that we would be worried and fearful of what is going on, who is this, what are we seeing here? And of course, Jesus knows their fear, and immediately, it says immediately, he says, "Don't be afraid." So I think that's really one important thing to note here is that when we are fearful, Jesus is quick to calm our fear. And so then Peter gets really bold, and he's like, "Jesus, if that's you, help me to walk on water." And Peter gets out of the boat. And I've actually heard like a full sermon about getting out of the boat. And I think that's an important part for us to remember as well, as God's calling us to do some tough things sometimes, some bold things. And so we have to make that choice to get out of the boat. And so Peter gets out of the boat. He starts walking on water. He's thinking this is great. But as soon as the wind picks up, it distracts him and it causes him to doubt. So he begins to sink. And of course, he calls out to Jesus, "Lord, save me." And Jesus reaches down and grabs him and rescues him. And very beautiful part of the story as we picture Jesus grabbing Peter by the arm and pulling him back up when he feels like he's drowning in these waves or in this water. So as we decide to make these bold steps for Jesus, we have to keep in mind that number one, he's going to equip us for that. Peter wasn't going to just walk on water by chance. Jesus knew if Peter stepped out of that boat, it would be through his power that he was walking on water. And then we also have to keep in mind that there's going to be some negative things that come up against us when we make those bold steps. People might be against us, or something timing-wise may be a little off. We're going to have stuff that pushes back, and like the wind in the story. And so we have to keep our eyes focused on Jesus, because as soon as we take our eyes off of him and we become distracted by those things that are popping up around us, or we start doubting and not trusting, we start to go under as well. And then we'll have to reach out. And of course, luckily, because we are blessed and because we have a relationship with Jesus, we can call out to him and he will rescue us from that. So as we wrap up Jesus walking on water, there's a short little piece about them stopping at the next region, Gennesaret, and this is near Capernaum, which we've kind of seen a couple of times. And people are just reaching out to Jesus and trying to touch the fringe of his cloak. And it's very similar to the story we read about the woman who had those health issues, and she reached out and she thought, as long as I can touch him, I'll be healed. And we know that the power doesn't come from the coat, like the prayer shawl that Jesus is wearing. That's not where the power is. The power is coming from him. And these people had this faith and had heard about this man and thought, as long as I could touch just the fringe of his garment. They were looking for something tangible and something real. And they knew that they had found that in Jesus. And he had compassion to heal all of these people as he was moving through the region. So I'm just praying for y'all today to look for those areas where you can be bold. Remember that Jesus will equip you to be bold and to make those moves, and that keep our eyes focused on him, keep them heaven-minded, so that we will stay on course and not fall under. And just pray that you have that intimate time with God today, with Jesus, as you build that relationship. And I can't wait to read more with you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.